morning, book lovers. Welcome back to Procrastinate with Books. In today's episode, we are going to do a little book tag experiment that I actually found on some other bloggers' website. I did go through a lot of book tag challenges that were going out there, but this one I felt was pretty wholesome. Just to give you this was the book tag that was done by Dini Panda Reads, and I'll link down her blog below from where I found the link to all the questions, and I'll be doing those 20 questions in this session. The first question is, how many books are too many books in a series? Now, occasionally I can easily read around 4 to 5 books in a series, and that I think is my limit for books. I think big books beyond 5 get a little too lengthy. The only exception to this rule that I've found has been Harry Potter series. That's the only book which has multiple parts and I still enjoyed reading. But other than that, books such as Wheel of Time, which has 15-16 parts, with it, I think it's really difficult to even get started and keep yourself motivated throughout the series. The next question is, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Now, I really hate them. Just outright state, I don't enjoy cliffhangers. It makes me feel miserable because I don't know what's happening next. And since the time I actually started reading ARCs, I think it became really challenging because it was the book that I was reading was not even published yet, and then you are hanged over on the cliff for the next part to come out, which may be at least 1 year apart. It's a really terrible feeling to have. Next one is a preferential question over hardcovers or paperbacks, and obviously I love hardcover books way more than any other forms. Then comes paperback, then audiobooks, then ebooks, and so on is the format preference. Just a quick glimpse. Most of these are hardback in nature, and I think that's why they stand so efficiently on the shelf out there. Now, our next question is regarding favorite books, and all my readers know that it is really difficult to answer this question because we obviously don't have one single favorite book, but I do have multiple favorites in different genres. Most of them are in fantasy. I do have a couple of contemporary fictions as my favorites as well, which I absolutely love. Basically, you can just go to Goodreads and check on my 5-star rated books. Those are my favorites, top notch all throughout the year. Then we have the least favorite book section, and I do have a couple of them that I rated 1 star, and I really wanted to rate them 0 because I don't understand the existence of them. Why do they even exist if they are not conveying even a single soul point? And those books are majorly in the rom-com category because I just cannot fathom the thought of reading pure romances for whatsoever reason. I think that has to be hinged up together with some other element for you to enjoy it. That could be historical fiction, fantasy romances, or even general contemporary romances with some significant agenda, plot lines, and such that are going on. Question is, love triangles, yes or no? I would say yes if the love triangles are executed in a proper way, that they leave you on a hinged feel. I think Cursed and Other Buried Things that I read last year was executed in a perfect way. Before that, I read The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and the love triangle in that is so freaking irritating. I think that was the only part that I disliked about that book, because of which I've not even read the next part, the Sun Warrior one that has already come out now. And it gets a little frustrating when the main protagonist cannot decide whether they have to go this way and dot or that way. I mean, having conflicting feelings is okay, but at the end of the day, just make a decision and stick to it. Then we have the most recent book you just couldn't finish. I can only recall Blood and Ruin, which was a fantasy book that I read for my February prompts, and it was just, and I could not enjoy reading it, so I ended up DNFing it, and that's something that I've already discussed at length in my last wrap-up video too. A book you are currently reading. I am currently reading The Fogs and Fireflies. This came as an ARC last month, and I wanted to prioritize reading this because this is a children's book, more like a middle grader's book, and it's in the fantasy genre, so obviously it speaks March to me. Last book you recommended to someone. I think it was Ruthless Vows. I recently finished Letters of Enchantment in February, and I was pretty devoured by the whole duology, and I have nothing but love for that series, and I'm recommending it left, right, and center to all romantasy lovers. The next question is the oldest book that I've read by publication date. I did start reading quite early, but since it's the oldest by publication, this has to be a classic. Let me go to just Goodreads and check And this is The Midsummer's Night Dream that was published in 1595. After that, I've read Romeo and Juliet, which was in 1597, and then the complete works in 1623. So this one obviously has Shakespeare down the line, and A Midsummer's Night Dream is my oldest published book that I read. Next question is the newest book that I've read by publication date. Again, we have to go to NetGalley in this case. The most recent book that I finished reading is The Glass Cliff by Sophie Williams, and its publication date was on 7th March 2024. So that's the most recent one. Whew. 11 questions. We have made it pretty well so far. The next one is your favorite author. I do have a couple of favorites, which includes Victoria Schwab, Cassandra Clare, Leigh Bardugo, and a few other emerging fantasy genre related artists as well. Then we have buying books or borrowing them. Earlier, I was in a phase of simply buying the books that I like and then reading them and just ending up disliking a couple of them as well, because all of them cannot work. Honestly, there would be some ups and downs even in reading as well. And so now I have finally decided that if I really want my collection to reflect the kind of books that I actually like and own the ones that I do like, for that reason I have to start reading books by borrowing them. So now I'm more into borrowing, and then if I really like a book and would like to own it to read multiple times, then I would go ahead and buy it. A book that you dislike that everyone else seems to love. Now finally we are addressing the elephant in the room. There are several such books that I really don't understand the hype about. Let's talk about Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, which is the second book after The Fourth Wing in the Imperium series, or whatever the name of the series is. Then there is Emily Henry's Happy Place. I did not like that either. We also have Bride, which has recently come out. It's a fantasy book, more like a romantasy, by Ali Hazelwood, and it's just not to my liking. Too smutty for my taste. There are several reasons for the dislikes of each one of them individually, but overall the cast is, they are just overhyped books that I did not enjoy reading. Bookmarks or dog ears, never ever fold a page in my book. I treat them like trophies on the shelves, and I would never even think of folding a page and dog earing them. I would find anything to be used as a bookmark, an actual bookmark or a receipt, or even a wrapper of a chocolate, your clutches, hairpins, anything, just simply anything, but don't damage the book. That's what I mean to say. A book you can always reread. I think the question's answer will change year after year, but for the most part of my bookish journey, I think Emma by Jane Austen and Little Women have been the two books that I constantly gravitate towards, and I've been able to reread them multiple times by now, so I think those two would still count in for the category. Can you read while hearing music? No, I cannot. I don't even understand how people are able to specifically opt in for listening to subtle music in the background and reading the books along with it. It's just a little distracting to me. If I'm hearing music, I would rather go in with the lyrics and focus on that, or else read my book and focus on the words in front of me. I cannot separate the two words distinctively, and that's why I do prefer to read my books without any music. Single point of view or multiple point of view, I think though I can enjoy both, I would prefer multiple point of views because it gives me a broader perspective to see the story from a third narrative's angle and understand each one's individual point of view. I think that's something I personally find very interesting to read. Do you read a book in single setting or over multiple days? So if a book is under 200 pages, I will try to read it in a single setting, or for the very least in a single day. If it's bigger than that, I do prefer to take my time and give it to the story to work on its own pace, and then read it in 2 to 3 days depending on the book's length. A book that you have read because of the cover, I think it's Hotel Magnific for me because the cover is pretty beautiful and I so decided to read it, and it was fine. And those were all the Bookish Tag questions, all 20 of them. I hope you had a good time watching these. Do let me know if you have tried any of these and what would be your answers to these Bookish Tag questions. I will catch up with you in my next video. Until then, keep your coffee strong and your TBRs long. Goodbye!